Finland has 15. Other European states have around 12. Some people argue that too many days off is bad for the economy. Others say that any potential economic cost is offset by a boost in general well-being. Now, Ben, not to put you on the spot here, but I've heard from my producers that you have quite a strong view on this one.
Well, it was. I'm going to defend the position. It was a throwaway line on the telephone, but you know, as you said in your tweet, actually, Emily, bringing you straight back into the crosshairs of this discussion. You know, you wait for bank holiday for ages, and you know, a bit like buses, they all turn up at the same time. And I think today, for me personally, was a bank holiday too far. You know, we had a bank holiday last weekend, and you know, maybe I'm a bit of a Scroogey kind of character, but I wanted to be back in the office this morning. I got up and I thought, well, what am I going to do today? And
you're not actually a Scroogey person, a Scroogey character, compared to some people at GB News. One of my colleagues, in fact, someone senior, wrote a piece for GB News website, Mick Booker. He wrote that the King was wrong to make this a bank holiday, and that a start to a new reign would be a fantastic way, get everyone back to the grind.
Well, I applaud Mr. Booker for discovering and revealing to us that the person who invented bank holidays, Sir John Lubbock, in 1871, a philanthropist and banker, he invented bank holidays and he had a pet wasp. Now, I don't know whether wasps need a lot of walking or he needed a bank holiday to do that. I think the problem is we've had so many bunched together. We had 2 extra last year, yes, because of the Queen's funeral and the Platinum Jubilee. And we've had Easter followed by 3 in May by the time we get to the end of the month. Then we won't get anything until the end of August, and then there's nothing till Christmas. So, as you rightly say, Emily, we're quite low down the ratings in terms of generosity.
But they're all socialist nations. All the nations you quoted are socialist nations.
Well, Scotland, of course, has 11.
And, well, there you go.
yeah. I think they've had it under different governments as well.
Well, you sound like the TUC, maybe, because last year they said, they looked at European countries and they said, we're not doing too well, we're too far down the ratings when it comes to bank holidays. We should have, I think they asked for, let me see, they asked for 4 new bank holidays on top of the 8 we already have as standard. And that's to align us with European countries. But, Ben, is it not also the case that they may have fewer days when it comes to statutory leave?
They may do. I haven't looked at what the statutory leave you know, scenarios in Europe or what the sort of normal contractual provisions are. But there is a history to bank holidays which goes before 1871. I think before 1830 there was sort of 40 national holidays every year. And then in 1834 someone cut that right back to 8. Can you imagine, right? From 40 to 8, and that was, of course, before we had proper employment law and so on, protecting people's interests and rights. And nowadays, we all have contractual entitlement to holidays. 20 days is perfectly normal. Some have 25, some even have 30 days working days holidays a year, working day holidays a year. And so the need for bank holidays is somewhat diminished as a result, because we all do have our entitlement. And there is a cost to bank holidays. The hospitality sector, as you and I were discussing earlier, Joe, do benefit to some extent from these days off. But the estimated cost of a bank holiday is somewhere between £1 billion and £2 billion. Now, at a time when we're coming out of COVID lockdowns, the economy's on its back.
It's not helpful, maybe.
It's not helpful.
Well, and also it's very weather dependent. Now, yesterday was absolutely glorious. And where I live in Kent, everywhere was absolutely, you know, heaving. But today, not so nice. And I know there are other parts of the country where it's been raining all day, and I'm sure they haven't been.
Everyone's just sitting at home on the sofa.
Or steamy cups of tea in, you know, steamed up cafes and things.
I was wondering what you were going to say there, Joe, for a second.
It's
yes, please do tell us what you're up to this bank holiday.
But I do think there is a point that Ben makes that, you know, working practices have changed as well. I mean, Whitsun, which is the end of May, the bank holiday, you know, in olden times, but not that long ago, factories always used to close for 2 weeks and everybody had to take their holidays then, because it was obviously bonkers to have people staggered if you were going to have to close down a whole factory. So I think, you know, if you're going to have bank holidays, maybe they should be either spread out a bit more or for something really worthwhile. I'm not sure that we needed one for today, I have to say.
Well, I agree, actually. We had a tremendous
God,
day.
perhaps people at home are thinking, what a miserable lot. I want to ban the Kings.
We're all working.
Bank holiday.
Well,
that is true, we are working. And a lot of people are. It's worth remembering that a lot of people are still working as normal today. And someone has just messaged saying, more bank holidays means even more lost school time for children. Not good. Won't someone think of the children, Ben?
True. Well, there you go. It's a loss of productivity at all ends of the age spectrum, isn't it?
Actually, I mean, there's a serious point to that, which is if you're paying for extortionate childcare costs and you suddenly have a bank holiday, you have to pay.
In any event.
In any event. So, for somebody who maybe is working, perhaps, somebody in the health service, for instance, has got to work today, but the nursery is closed, they've still got to pay for it. So, I mean, it's an inconvenience, but...
It's an inconvenience, but I'm going to pick you up on that economic point.
Yeah.
Because
you fact-checked me while I was speaking, did you? Yeah.
Now, we can quibble about the cost, but apparently the Jubilee weekend bank holiday, the Department for Culture and Media Sport said it would cost the economy around £2.39 billion. However, the economy was estimated to have had a £6.37 billion boost from Jubilee spending in tourism.
No.
So you lose some in one area, make it up elsewhere.
So I think that weekend is particularly interesting because it was a celebration that went through the weekend. The coronation was a celebration on Saturday, and I imagine receipts from tourism went up as a result of the Saturday. But today, there wasn't really that much going on. I think today was a day of volunteering your help, which probably doesn't add a lot to the economic
But to our national well-being, apparently 6 million people in this country have been out volunteering in one way or another. How brilliant is that?
Yeah,
it
but
is
lots
brilliant.
of people volunteer all the time.
That's true, yes.
And, we've had all of this, time and time again after the Olympics. We were all going to be lovely and kind and do amazing things and volunteer. We all came together during COVID and looked after our neighbours. I don't see much evidence of that anymore, I'm afraid.
Subsisting.
And this voluntary stuff, it's fine, but you can do it all the year round.
You should do it. You should do it all the year round. Yeah.
Well, I saw a particularly miserable journalist tweet earlier this morning that it was outrageous for the King to ask people to volunteer because he's had us spend so much money on his coronation and on everything that goes with it. So therefore he has no right.
Opinions.
No right. You saw who it was. Yes, it was Kevin Maguire. I will say who it was. But yes, I think that's a bit... I'm not sure if that argument really stands, but hey.
It all sounds a bit desperate today, this idea that, we're all... people are supposed to be having tea parties and volunteering. The coronation was Saturday. That's it. That's all that needs.
Today's an anticlimax, almost.
And it all feels a little bit desperate, a bit pathetic.
Trying to drag it out
a little bit like the concert at Windsor, I have to say, which was B-lists gone mad.
Well, I got told off earlier for being a little bit less than 100% enthusiastic about the concert. Did you watch it, Ben?
I didn't watch it, so that's how enthusiastic I was.
Well, that doesn't necessarily surprise me,
I caught a little bit of it and thought, really, this is just... But lots of people like it. I mean, there's a point where people can do their own thing. But I do think today's bank holiday was...
Well, they very much will. And, by the way, Matthew has got in touch. He's delighted to see you both back. He says the power pair are back. That's you two. Love these two panellists.
Where's Bingo Brenda?
Bingo Brenda.
I don't know if that's her name.
We're not mentioning that.
You wait. I will. I will.
Regular viewers will know that Joe Phillips has a bit of an obsession, I would say.
Well,
an unhealthy obsession with a former Prime Minister who has lots of scruffy blonde hair.
Apparently, not as much as Nigel Farage, because didn't somebody say...
Not as much as Nigel Farage about Donald Trump.
Exactly.
Well, there you go. We all have our vices, eh? We all have our obsessions. Let me just read out a couple of points before we move on. Richard says, ban all bank holidays. There you go, Ben. Ban all bank holidays. Waste of time, very unproductive. We had 3 years of bank holidays during COVID. Well, good point, well made. Jim says there are too many that all occur too closely. Instead of this early May Day, we should get St George's Day around April the 23rd.
Well, then we'd be even more clogged up.
We would still be clogged up, but in the other direction. And Matthew says, Michelle seems to be loving the bank holidays.
Well, there is that point.
Yes, it's true. I am always in this seat when there is a bank holiday, but fair play to her. She's worked hard.